I'm going to cut right to it. Tomorrow morning, doors open for 8 spots of one-on-one consulting with me at the lowest price that we've offered in a long time. Only 8 spots are open over at practiceofthepractice.com/consulting deal. Then it's sold out. If you want to make 2023 the biggest jump ever, you're going to want to grab one of these spots. And on top of all of that, we're adding a 2-day intensive with me and other practice owners here at my house in Traverse City, Michigan. Make sure you grab your spot over at practiceofthepractice.com/consulting deal. Doors open tomorrow morning, August 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 898. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am so excited for this series that we are doing that's going to be covering all the things we did in Level Up Week earlier this year. And this series is all about giving a spotlight to some amazing guests that we had. We wanted to make sure that you, if you missed it, were able to get this education. It's something that's been only available to our membership communities for the last 6 months or so. And now we are letting you have access to it if you didn't attend Level Up Week earlier in the year. Also, wanted to make sure that you know that on September 18th through September 21st, we have Level Up Week 2023. So make sure that you come to Level Up Week. We are going to have tons of amazing speakers, amazing panels on everything from starting your practice, starting a group practice, and growing a group practice, as well as things like passive income and really just leveling up in a new way in your private practice. So make sure you're on that interest list. You'll get all those dates and all those registrations emailed to you over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Well, welcome everybody to how to add virtual assistants to your practice. So glad that you're taking time out of your day to hang out with us during Level Up Week. If I haven't met you, I'm Joe Sanok, and I'm the founder of Practice of the Practice. That's a podcast, it's a website, it's a movement. We've helped thousands of therapists, coaches, and counselors to build thriving practices that they absolutely love. And so your thriving may be a part-time side gig as you have your full-time job. It could be a mega practice. This morning I interviewed Dr. Larry Beer, who just joined our team, and he had a 50-person private practice. That's insane. Or Ash, one of our consultants, she has a 30-person and growing multi-site Canadian private practice. And so it's really amazing to see what thriving looks like for a variety of different people. So I also write, I've written some articles for Harvard Business Review. I'm a speaker with Simon Sinek, been featured in a bunch of different places. But I love playing with my daughters. They're 8 and 11. They're just so much fun. I have primary custody, so I get to see them almost all the time, which is really fun and exhausting and creative and all sorts of things. So we like being outside. We like playing board games. Recently, we got into the TV show National Treasure, which I'm not going to give away a spoiler, except that in one of the later episodes, there's some things that happen that scare an 8-year-old. So she's no longer going to be watching it. So, but she was really into it for a while, but now she's not into it. So hopefully she's not scared of National Treasure, because that's a fun series that goes on. Anyway, I'm really excited to have James Marland with me. James Marland, he has an MBA, and he's been driven to create businesses that would provide for his family and impact the world, which I just absolutely love. And before founding Course Creation Studio, James worked for over 20 years in management and administration in mental health and social services. James is someone that I've met at conferences. We've hung out in person. He's been a friend of Practice of the Practice for a long time. And it's always fun to see what all he's creating. So James, welcome to this webinar today.
Hello. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. Okay, so quick introduction. The screen here says Scar Stories. So we were going to be talking in a coffee shop, and we were talking about things going on. Eventually, we might talk about a scar story, something that happened to you. Like, where did you get that scar? So for what I want you to know about me, maybe this is all you'll need to know, is I scarred myself with a crayon. Yeah, I scarred myself with a crayon. what I did was uh, I I was an incurious kid, and I noticed that the kerosene heater, when you put crayons or anything else to it, it started to melt it. So I was melting crayons on paper, making designs, little artsy, crafty stuff. And I was not very careful, and I had a little teardrop of wax from the crayon fall into my skin and burn me. So I have a self-inflicted scar wound from a crayon. So without getting into graphic detail, do you have a scar, and does that scar have a story? Why don't you put that in the chat? Do you have a scar story, from something that happened to you? So while we wait for people to put that in, just like there are scar stories with physical wounds, I am sure if we went around the table and we were just chatting about our work and our business, we would have scar stories with our some bad hires, some employees, things that have caused us deep pain, whether self-inflicted or just something bad that happened to you. And we could fill up the rest of this presentation, the rest of this hour, talking about the scars that we have from bringing in bad hires to our agencies. And so what I'd like to do, is help us reduce the scar stories, specifically around virtual assistants. But I want to give you some skills and tips and practical advice on how to reduce some of the pain and the scarring from bringing in bad people or bad hires, not bad people, but bad hires to your agency. And we're going to go over the recipe for a successful hire. Why do we have bad hires? Why do we bring in people that aren't a good fit for our agency? There's no training. We're trained on therapists, we're trained on other things, but we're not trained on hiring people. Two is we don't have standards. We don't have like behavior standards or duty standards of what an acceptable or an A player type of person looks like. We have weak job descriptions. We get half of this presentation is the bad things I've done and what I've done to fix it. So we've taken job descriptions from Indeed or bulk, just copied and pasted job descriptions, hoping that gets us the right people. Or we would go with our gut, that's what I did. I interviewed people for 16 years. I hired a few people. And then when I started hiring lots and lots of people, I was like, oh, I know how to do this. I'm good with people. I can hire the right people. And then sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you hire your own pain. So how are we going to prevent that? So let's go over the objectives of the little webinar. We're going to discover the secret of hiring success with 3 simple ingredients, which it's going to help most of the people most of the time. It's not going to help every situation all the time, but it's much better than going with your gut. Then we're going to cover 4 key steps in those things, and we're going to stop making bad hiring decisions. Put in the chat if you'd like to stop making bad hiring decisions. Just put a yes, or I'm following you. I know I need this. Brief slide about me. I'm the founder of Course Creation Studio, of the podcast, The Scaling Therapy Practice. And I'm a lighthouse lover, cat lover, and a Lego lover. So in my free time, I host a board game night, and I lead a faith-based 12-step recovery program. So that's a little bit about me. The three ingredients. So we're moving into the 3 ingredients. 1 is raise your standards. 2 is require those standards. And 3 is filter or root out the people who are not a great fit for you. The fundamental problem of hiring. Maybe you've experienced this in your hiring decisions, but the fundamental problem of hiring is you don't know if you have a good hire until after you hire somebody. Like something might look good ahead of time, It might look like they're a good hire, but they might have you just don't know. You can't predict future behavior. You can't test what they're going to do. You can't test how they're going to get along with people in your situation. You can't test how they're going to react to your management style. You can't test if they're a virtual assistant. You can't test their conversion rate. You can't test their timeliness. There's all sorts of things that you need to know before you hire somebody that you can't test. You only know if the person's a good fit for your practice based on their future behavior. And that's a big fundamental problem in hiring. But there is a solution. The solution is you got to ask about recent behavior in a similar situation, because the best predictor of somebody's future behavior is their past behavior in a similar situation. And it's not perfect. I know there's studies out there who would contradict this, but for the most of the time, most of the people, most of the time, especially with jobs, the best thing we have is their recent behavior in a similar situation. So we have to use that to our advantage in everything we do when we're hiring. We have to use it in the job description. We have to use it in our job posting. We have to use it in our interview questions. We have to use that their behavior, what they tell us about their behavior in our hiring decisions, because almost everything else is just going with our gut. Like, I know people, and sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. So ingredient number one is raise your standards. We have to have high standards when we hire people. Just one, because the impact, like the people you bring in have a high impact on your business. So you have to have high standards for that. High standards also reduce your risk. If you bring in a virtual assistant that you're not sure about their standards, then it's a risky decision. Like, scheduling is the lifeblood. The first point of contact with somebody sets up the whole situation, the whole relationship with the office. So it's a high stakes. And having high standards narrow the pool of applicants. You don't want a huge pool of applicants. You want the right pool of applicants. So raising the standard is the first ingredient for making great hires. The key step here, if you had an action step to take from this, is know the necessary behaviors that you need for a successful candidate. So write in the comments, what do you think are some of the necessary behaviors for the job? And I'm going to go over just briefly how to find those behaviors. But what are some of the necessary behaviors for the job? And I'm going to show you where you find those behaviors in the next slide here. But how do you find the behaviors that you need? First and foremost, I think you have to have a stated vision and mission. What do you stand for? What are your what would attract somebody to your practice? Because what attracts you to your practice is going to attract the right people to your practice. So you have a vision and mission and something that you are passionate about. The next thing to do is list the job duties. What are the things that somebody would do? Just a simple way to do this, if you're a solo practice, just list all the things that you do now that you're going to want to offload. Just have a piece of paper next to your desk and list the things that you're doing now that you would hope a virtual assistant would do. Then after you have that list, you identify the key behaviors of success. So if scheduling is one of the job duties, what are the behaviors of somebody who schedules your office effectively? Timeliness, getting to the phone calls, responding with the right information, detail-oriented. So what are some of those behaviors? Then you create a job description using the duties and behaviors and the mission desired. You're not hiding these things. You're telling people exactly what you want. You're telling people exactly what you want. You are not hiding what you're sharing with them. Then you create the interview questions. So when people make it through that pre-hire pre-hire phase, you create the interview questions designed to draw out examples of the desired behavior. I think you're gonna like that step because your master questions and answers, question askers, and so you're gonna really like that behavior interview question. And then you use the same questions every time. So that's how you are creating high standards for the people that you hire. So how can you find high standards for behavior? So you look for somebody. If you have the best is if you have somebody now, whether it's yourself or a therapist that's doing a good job with that role right now. Like, who are the people that are doing well with that, and just kind of follow them around. What do they do? What do they produce? What's the quality of their work? What's the quantity of their work? What are the things, what are the metrics that you use in your office that determine success? And what are those people doing to accomplish those metrics? If you don't have that, then I'm sure you have a friend who has one. You probably can't stop them from talking about how good their assistant is. So ask them, what makes your assistant so good? What are the things that they do? What are their behaviors that they do? So we have to have standards. We have to have high standards. And the second ingredient is we have to use those standards. We have to require them in the people that we hire. Just think about all the other businesses that you use, the other offices that you use. Do they have high standards? Like if your tax accountant said, well, I think we have enough money for taxes, and I think, you did it fine, and you're going to have enough money for your bills. Would you accept that, or would you want them to go back and make sure you're not going to have trouble with your taxes? If you were building a new building and your construction worker is like, well, I think I got the right concrete. I'm not sure. I've never used it before, but we're going to pour your foundation anyways. It might last, 50 years, or it might last 5. Would you accept those standards? We have to get out of our head that we have to put on the hat, I guess, of a hiring manager. Every industry has standards, and it's no different for hiring. We have to have standards for who we hire. In fact, the key step here is to take off the therapist hat, take off the hat that says that you have to have when you're a therapist. Like, you hope and believe in people, and you hope people can improve, and you have the skills to help them improve. You actually have to take that hat off and put on the hat of a hiring manager that says, my job is results and retention, and the best thing I can do to have results and retention is to hire the best people, to have standards, and then use those standards to hire people. You just can't say, oh, this is what I want, and then not require it, and then hope that it would happen. You're acting as the hiring manager, and you have to do the things that ensure that you're going to have people that produce results and retention. The stakes are very high. I just have quotes by the book that I got lots of this information. It's a book and a podcast. Is The Effective Hiring Manager, and Manager Tools is the podcast. So the Effective Hiring Manager is the book. The author's Mark Horstman, and they have a podcast that's 10 years going, all about manager things. And the quote from the book that there's 2 quotes that I have here about having standards is, hiring the wrong people is like substituting sawdust for flour in our cake. You can bake it, you just can't eat it. Or I'd add to that, you bake it and then you eat it every day. I think that's the next quote. We make our own pain by hiring poorly. We eat the cake of our own poor decisions day after day. And that's what it's like hiring people who are not the right fit. That's the result of not putting on the hiring manager's hat and hiring people that are not the right fit for your company. So the last step, which we'll spend the last 10 minutes on, I guess, or 10 or 15, is ingredient number 3. So you have the standards, you're using the standards, and then you filter people through the standards. And we're not saying these are bad people. We're saying they're bad people, bad improper hires. For example, if I bought a citrus tree and tried to plant it up in upstate New York, or in southern Pennsylvania where I live right now, that tree would either not produce fruit or it would die. It's not that it's a bad tree; it's just not the right environment for that tree. So I'm not saying people are bad. I'm just saying it's not the right environment. So we have to root them out and make sure that we are not doing that. The first step here is the key step in this phase is eliminate the bad first. You have to choose from the people who will actually thrive in your company, and you do that through three things. Well, two main steps: the job posting, the resume review, and then your interview process. So, just quickly through the job posting, you use in your job posting, you're just clear, you're super clear, and you use your mission, the duties, the behaviors that you need, and you clearly articulate the desire, what you're looking for. And long resumes are fine, or long job postings are fine, because if you're looking to hire somebody that is detail oriented, they're going to read the whole thing. If you're looking for somebody who loves your position or loves the position that you're going for, they're going to read the whole thing and follow the instructions that you put in it. If one of the main things, problems of having a job posting that anybody can apply to, is you're going to get everybody applying to it, and there's just not enough time to filter through those things. So if you put things in your posting that indicates the behaviors that you want, then you're going to get better results with your filtering.
James, I want to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
So there's a question that I think is important to clarify before we dig in too much to the hiring process. Some people are wondering, what is a virtual assistant, and kind of so they can picture and visualize who they are hiring, who they are vetting, what they're doing. So can you just take a minute or two to kind of talk
Yeah.
through what's a virtual assistant, and where would they be looking for one too as they're doing these job postings?
Okay, so virtual assistants generally do all the tasks that can be done from a computer or a phone for your office. So examples of the tasks would be monitoring the email and responding to client inquiries, taking voicemail messages. Some virtual assistants with more hours would answer the phone live, but that is not common. Things that you can do for social media. There's virtual assistants for all sorts of things, not just for therapy offices, the specialized virtual assistants, but there's virtual assistants for the things you create, such as social media posts, podcasts, blogging, web pages. Like they're most of the time they're independent contractors that you hire that do some tasks for you. They take some tasks off the plate. And then there's two big buckets of places you can find people. One is independent contractors, people that work for themselves, and you can find them on Indeed, Upwork, Fiverr, those types of things. Uriah Gifford has, I forgot the name of his list, but he has a list of resources, and I found people that advertise for virtual assistants there. And then the other big bucket where you can find a virtual assistant is agencies. So people that hire virtual assistants, train virtual assistants, and then you work with them. So the advantages of hiring an agency is you're not dependent on the one assistant. There's just something about a lot of virtual assistants that they're there for a few months and then they're gone, or they're there for a few years and then you're gone. And if you as a practice owner put all your eggs in one basket on an independent contractor, they could work out. I mean, some of the best people I've heard are independent contractors that just work for one or two offices. But if they leave, then you're back to hiring and retraining. So the advantage of an agency is you have people that help you train, you have people that help they hire people, and if that assistant isn't working out or if they get sick, they normally have the resources to put in another assistant and get you back up to speed without too much hassle. Uh, they're more expensive though. The agencies are definitely more expensive because not only are you hiring the virtual assistant, you're also hiring the management layer. But the advantages is you're offloading another task, the hiring task. They take care of that, the training task, most of the training tasks. So I hope that cleared up some of that.
Yeah, that's helpful. And we will be doing questions at the end too, so that we can get through kind of the main kind of core things, because a lot of what James is going to talk about may answer some of your questions. So, yeah. Going in network with insurance can be tough. I know when I took insurance, there were long wait times and it was so confusing. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious. And even after you're done, it can take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access enhanced reimbursement rates with major payers. They also handle all of the paperwork from eligibility checks to claims submissions and guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure, regardless of where you're working from. It's amazing to know that you can be fully online. Learn more about building a thriving practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe to get started.
All right. So you got to filter those job descriptions. You filter the job postings. You don't have time. You don't have time to review everybody's application. So you use the behaviors that you've already identified to identify the behaviors in these things: titles, dates, companies, career progression. These are all indicators of behaviors that you want. So, for example, and there's no right or wrong answer, but if you were reviewing somebody's resume and details were important for the job, somebody that has the behavior of being detail oriented, where would that behavior show up? You can put that in the chat. Where would the behavior of being detail oriented show up on a resume? Where would timeliness show up on a resume? I talked to somebody recently. They had teamwork. Like, teamwork was something that was important to them. Where would teamwork show up on a resume? So you could, now that you know that you're looking for behavior, because behavior is indicative of their future behavior, you look for that behavior. And that's how you review a resume. I mean, there's books written on resume review, but that's often I would be like, well, how do I read this resume? But if I know that it's for, if I know that I'm looking for behaviors, it's easier to read the resume. So the first rule of hiring. So I state this really strong, almost maybe too strong, but we got to get in our head. The first rule of hiring is not hiring. Like, if we think that our job is to hire people, then we're already starting out. We're already starting out behind. We're already starting out in a place of using confirmation bias and going with our gut. It's really easy to hire people. Like, it's really easy to say yes, offer people a pile of money, and then move on with your life. It's really difficult to live with those bad decisions. If we think our job is to hire, you are going to look over the red flags that you should have missed. For example, a couple years ago, I decided to buy a car, and I wanted a Honda CRV, because Hondas run well. I didn't know what a CRV was. I didn't even know, like, what they looked like, but we started looking for them, and they're everywhere. Like they're one of the top 10 selling cars in the world, or at least in the United States. But I didn't see them until I started looking for them. So if you start looking for reasons to hire, like if you start looking for reasons to say yes, you will find them. So we have to say our first rule of hiring is don't hire, because that helps us look for the red flags. Like one of the reasons we hire people that are not fit for us is we don't understand our job of a hiring manager is to look for the things that don't work, because it's so easy to hire people. It's so easy to say, oh, I think I can work with that person. I think I can help them grow in this environment. But you're Canada and they're a citrus tree and the ground just doesn't match. So look for the red flags, look for the reasons to say no. The default answer when going into a hiring decision or an interview, anyways, should be no, because you're looking for the red flags. Why do I say that? Because the pain of a no that should have been a yes is far easier to tolerate than the pain of enduring a yes that should have been a no. Let me give you an example. If you are in the interview room and somebody's on the fence and you're not sure they're going to be a good fit, and you say no to them, and then a year later you find out that the therapist down the street hired them and they're doing well, you're going to be like, oh, one that got away. That's the person that got away. I should have hired them. You might think about it for like 10 more minutes. What should have I done differently? And then you're done. You're never going to think of it again, or hardly ever going to think of it again. But if you say yes to somebody that should have been a no, that pain is going to scar you. That is going to stay with you. That's going to be the thing that keeps you up at night. That's going to be the thing that you don't want to deal with in the morning. That's going to be the thing that's going to cost you money. That's going to be the person that doesn't work well with your team and they cause havoc and chaos. So the pain of like missing out on somebody that should have been a yes is far easier to deal with the pain of just the pain of eating that sawdust cake. You just it I've done it. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect, and definitely not perfect, because I had to study and read all these books to find these things. I've had the pain of hiring people I should have said no to, that I overlooked the flags, that I said, oh, I can make up for this default. I can work with them. I know people, and then crashing and burning. So learn from my pain. Somebody said you can learn from two types of pain: your pain or somebody else's pain. So key step, there's two key steps in this phase, but use targeted, well-prepared behavior interview questions for this. You set people up to give you behaviors that you can use to judge, will they fit in my practice? So, and these targeted behavior interview questions make it so much harder for the people that don't have the behavior. They will not know how to answer the question, or will make something up. And it will make it so much easier for the people who do have this behavior to say yes. If you want somebody to be detailed, then you ask questions that help them demonstrate their skills in being detailed. It creates a gap. Like it will create a separation, like literal piles of resumes and interviews that do not meet your standards, and people who are good and great for your situation. So you have to use targeted, well-prepared behavior interview questions. Bad interview questions, I'll quickly go into that. Bad interview questions are things like, tell me what your manager would say about you, or tell me about what your coworkers would say about you. Those are things that back people into a corner and help them. They make things up, and you don't want that. You want to know what they would do. So the three parts of a good behavioral interview questions for the hiring situation is a helpful lead-in, an open-ended beginning, and the behavior you are looking for. And I'll wrap up with some examples of that. So I have 4 examples of this for a virtual assistant. And you can make, once you have your list of core tasks and core behaviors, I think these will kind of roll off the tongue. They'll be easy to write. So helpful lead-ins. Sometimes people want to use their insurance, but we don't take insurance at our practice. So that's like the helpful lead-in. You're telling them the situation. Then the open-ended question. Tell me about a time. It's just you want to know a specific behavior, a specific time when they made a decision. Tell me about a time you explained the benefits of a service that did not take insurance. The people who have done this will answer you 100% of the time with behaviors that are probably useful for your practice. The people who haven't done this will not. They won't be able to answer the question. Another example, you'll be getting calls from people who are not having good days, and sometimes they are rude, angry, or even crying. Tell me about a time when you dealt with a customer who was experiencing strong emotions and how you were able to support them. So you could put empathetic in here or supportive. I put the word support, like I want people who treat people like people. So how do you support people? 2 more questions. We collect a lot of insurance payments in our office, and sometimes they are denied. Give me an example of a denied claim you had to resolve. Like if part of your job description, somebody who the metrics that you have is being able to solve denied claims, you're going to want people who have problem solving skills and people who have done this before. So you ask them, have they done it? So just to wrap up then, here's the diagram again. And I have a template for you. If we get to that, well, I have a template for you that you can use to create these for yourself. It's just the helpful lead in, the open-ended beginning, and the desired behavior. And also on that template, I have the book and the podcast, the manager tools, the effective hiring manager, and some other goodies for you. So that is how you use these. And so everything you're doing, you're creating the standards, you're using the standards, and then you're filtering people by the standards so that you can make the best hiring decision. And this works for a virtual assistant or anyone that is, for another therapist coming to your practice. They're not just exclusive to virtual assistants. So I guess you want to help me with questions, Joe?
Yeah, so we're going to take questions in just a couple minutes here. Want to share with you about our communities. We're doing Level Up Week, helping people level up in a number of different ways by providing these free webinars, by walking you through a lot of different things, by giving you access to these recordings for 48 hours. And so we also want to make sure that you know all about our communities. And if you're ready to level up but confused where to start, we have private practice support communities from the moment that you say, I want to start a solo practice, all the way through leaving a practice and wanting to do e-courses and podcasts and passive and active income and multiple streams of income. So when I think about who I want to have help me, I want experts to help me. And we've helped over 2,000 therapists start private practices through our online communities, whether that's solo, group, all of our online communities. We've helped over 2,000 therapists do that. We have a proven process, and we've been recognized and won awards, 9 different Best in Therapy awards since 2018. And our members have collected over $200 million in sales. I mean, that's just insane to think about the economic impact, but also just the mental health impact as a result of training therapists to run practices that thrive, that they absolutely love. So we have 4 different communities that are open this week. And for those that are in solo practice, wanting to start it, all the way through having a thriving solo practice, we have Next Level Practice. And in Next Level Practice, we have weekly meetings. We have Ask the Experts, where we bring in experts. We have over 30 courses that you can go through. We have small groups, accountability partners. It's the all-inclusive support that you need for starting a practice. In fact, I had people just last week reach out to do one-on-one consulting with me for around $1,000 a month. And I said to them, Next Level Practice will get you all that you need for $100 a month. And so that's the place to go if you're in solo practice. And that's ongoing, like Netflix. You cancel it when you're full or when you don't want it anymore. Typically within 4 to 6 months, people are as full as they want to be. Then when they're full, that's time to start a group practice if you want to. Some people don't want to. They just want to maximize their solo practice. But if you want to add your first clinician, that's where the group practice launch program. That's a time limited 6-month program, $250 per month. You watch the training each week, and then we have Q&A on that training every single week. That's primarily led by Latoya and Ash. The two of them both are group practice owners and help you out with that program. The next stage after that is our ongoing program, Group Practice Boss. The next cohort for that one, just like Next Level Practice, won't open until September. So that's $149 a month right now. And same sort of model as Next Level Practice. You get all the access to Next Level Practice, as well as another weekly meeting specific around being a group practice boss. So the next 2 months are going to be all on hiring, because we know hiring can be very difficult sometimes. We have different programs within that with small groups, accountability partners, so that you aren't feeling lonely as a practice owner, that you know how to level up. And then after that, when you're adding additional streams of income and wanting to build that audience to do that, to launch an e-course, launch a podcast, that's where we have Audience Building Academy. And the webinar right before this talked all about different streams of income and had a bunch of people actually jump into Audience Building Academy. So one of our bonuses for that is I'm doing a 2-day group retreat here at my house in April. And so we're doing that bonus for anyone that signs up this week for Audience Building Academy. So all of those kick off in early April. And we'll be covering all sorts of different things around that. But I want you to sign up now, because you get all those bonuses if you're in that first group. And so with Next Level Practice, the first 50 people get all of our bonuses. With Group Practice Launch, it's the first 20. Same with Group Practice Boss. And then the first 10 get the Audience Building Academy extra bonuses. So make sure you sign up over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. Don't wait until Thursday to grab that spot. We have people like Anna, who said that in 2 days, she got done more than she did in the last 2 years. We teach people how to sprint, how to run full tilt, how to get things done. Or Marta, who said that she wanted to pursue a business idea and that she was able to get a clearer vision by doing both consulting and Audience Building Academy. Or people like Brian, who said that in just 7 months, he quadrupled his number of sessions. He got an abundance of support and resources for every level of practice. And he got all the different things that he needed and accountability to be a strong practice owner and entrepreneur. So just think about, for every hour that you spend searching, evaluating, wondering, am I doing this right? Am I doing SEO right? Am I doing my website right? All these different things. You could be working with experts that just say, spend your time on this. You can ignore everything else. So it'll just save even more. And so that we can have more Q&A, I'm going to skip the Circle community, because I know a lot of you have seen this in some of the other webinars we had. Circle is like a Facebook group meets an e-learning platform. It's what we use for our membership community. It's a platform specifically made for membership communities. And so we have different trainings within there. We have different small groups and spaces, and some people are hosting book clubs. So it's a great way to have a vibrant community around the phase of practice that you're in right now. So a couple of our bonuses: you're getting 70% off of Telewellness Hub Premium, which includes CTV ads. You're guaranteed to get 100 views with that. You get our exclusive welcome party for ABA. You're going to get that 2-day group intensive. Everyone gets full access to the library and Ask the Experts. And we're giving away free design items like logos, email signatures, one sheet for a limited number of people. So make sure you sign up right away so that you get those bonuses, get those solid teachings, the community that'll support your goals, and tools of the trade that'll help you move forward faster. So let's dive into questions about virtual assistants or about any of those communities. James, I'll just read these to you so you don't have to pay attention to kind of all that came in. And I did put that link for Uriah's website in there. First question, are VAs typically contractors or W-2 employees?
I think typically people hire them as contractors, though you can hire somebody as an employee. And once again, the costs are going to come into play there, and also how much, how you interact with them. A contractor, you might not, you probably can't tell them when they can do your stuff. You can't say you have to use this tool to do this thing. They're going to have their way of doing the business. And then the employee, of course, you are buying the right to, by paying their taxes and all that, you're buying the right to tell them you're going to use this tool, be in the desk at this time for these hours. and the list of other things that you can and can't do with employees. But I would say most often they're probably contractors.
Yeah. Next question. How much does a VA typically cost if you're employing them compared to if you're working with an agency?
So this is very rough, but probably half or less, because I think a lot of the costs for the agency is most likely, the management costs, all the costs that they're incurring to pay the taxes, to hire the people, to train them, to do coverage, to do benefits, and all those things. They're paying those costs. So, I mean, I you get what you pay for. You can find people, $20 and under for solo contractors. Um, though anything, you know, it's just part of a red flag for me. Why can't they get $20 or more? What is preventing them from doing it? Maybe, it's where they live and that's just the general rate. But if you're an independent contractor and a third of your income is going to taxes and benefits and those types of things, so now you're only earning like $13 an hour. It's kind of low for what people do. I've seen for agencies 40 and up, and then for some specialized things 50, and for some social media stuff um, like podcasting and like video editing, like 60 to 65. That was with an agency though, the 60 to 65.
So the next question, it's more of a mindset that James, I'd be interested in how you would challenge. I think my issue is saying yes to giving over responsibility. I think I can do it better myself.
And I guess in the beginning, you're probably right. You're probably right that you can do it better yourself. Your clients, your scheduling. The thing is, you're doing it. Like you're limiting. There's a cost to doing all the stuff. You're preventing yourself from growing, and maybe a lot of the things that you're doing, if they have the experience, that you can teach them how you do it, and then you don't have to do it anymore. Like you're not only getting the benefit that the task is done, but you're getting the benefit that you're not doing it, and you can free yourself up for other things. I think it's really this is I'm right there with you. It's hard for me to give up things, but I feel so much better. Like I get so much more done when I find the right person to delegate it to. So I think the training and the delegation and being clear about expectations are important in the beginning. But once they take those things over, you're never gonna want to go back.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first started handing off some of the podcasting things that I enjoyed, but then it was like, oh my word, like this is awesome to not do this. Um, Next, I suppose those interview questions would be best to be something a typical person would not expect in the interview. How can we look for and see the real person behind the mask that is invariably presented in the resume and in the interview?
So, I mean, I get what they're saying, but I think there has to be a through line of clarity throughout the whole process. You start with your job posting and you're clear what the job is. You're clear about the duties. You're clear about your mission. You're clear about the behaviors that they're looking for. And then in the interview, you ask the questions about the job duties, the mission, the behavior. Like you are not. I don't think we're trying to trick people. Like we're trying to get the best information. What is the recent behavior that you've had? So you want them to be well prepared. And I think the people who have those behaviors, even though they might not know the questions, they're going to answer them with the behaviors that you have, and there's going to be that you want, and there's going to be a clear divide between the haves and the have-nots. How do you get behind fakeness? I think a lot of people can fake things for an hour, but if you're asked things over and over again about what you did, how did you handle this situation? I do believe they're not good enough to lie about that the whole time, and you're not bad enough that you're going to miss it the whole time. You're actually probably pretty good at sniffing that stuff out. So if you're clear and you're telling them what you want, you can get that out. And then I have a slide. We didn't get to it on probing. And the Effective Hiring Manager, goes into how to probe a little deeper. But what you're looking for is why they made the decision. So if I told you I went to Harvard, I didn't. I went to Shippensburg for my MBA. But if I told you I went to Harvard, and you said, "Oh, Harvard, they're prestigious. You must be super smart and like into academics," and I'd be like, "Nah, that's where I got the most scholarship money." Now, that's not a bad reason for going to college, but it might not be the reason that you are. It might not be the behavior that you're looking for. So you probe a little bit deeper on the behavior to figure out why they made those decisions. You look for things like, "So I did this, I decided, it was obvious to do this." And then you just said, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's very interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Why did you make that decision?" And if they have the behavior, they're going to confirm the behavior. If they don't have the behavior, they're not. They're going to say nonsense. So just be clear.
Awesome. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. You all are awesome. Thanks again, James, for teaching us and being with us and supporting Level Up Week, especially the gifts that you gave to people as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and going through this training that we did earlier this year with Level Up Week. Again, if you want to register or be on the interest list to make sure that you get all the information for Level Up Week, which is coming up and kicking off on September 18th, 2023, make sure you head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/level up, and you can register for whichever ones of those particular trainings that you want to come to. Also, we could not do this show without our amazing sponsors. Today's sponsor is Alma, and Alma has the most amazing insurance program where you can see clients in your state of licensure regardless of where you're working from. It's why Alma, they make it easy and financially rewarding for you to accept insurance. You can learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Joe. Again, that's helloalma.com/Joe to get started. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.